Hello, this is Amanda Swanson, and this is a video for the students taking my Saltmarsh Shell class with the twisted skein. Saltmarsh Shell is a pattern written by Laura Crawley. Today I'm going to show you how to do a 3-needle bind-off to work the shoulder seams across the tops of your sweater, front and back. Alright, so with the Saltmarsh Shell, it is knit in a sort of seed stitch pattern. It has knit and purl bumps. These are just stockinette swatches. But I want you to be aware that when we do the 3-needle bind off, there are a couple different schools of thought. 3-needle bind off creates a knit stitch ridge that runs along perpendicular to your stitches. And so some people like that ridge to show, and some people do not. If you do not want it to show, you want to position your sweater pieces so that you have the right sides of your shoulders together. I'm going to take the tails of my yarn here, position these swatches so that both sides, right sides, are together. And then when we do a 3-needle bind off, you're going to need a 3rd needle. As I told you in class, it does not have to be exactly the same size. Ideally it is, but if you don't have a separate needle of the same size, you can use a size larger. That's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my 3rd needle into the first stitch as if to knit on my front needle, and then also into the stitch on my back needle as if to knit. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use a contrast here so you can see the stitches, but you would do this using the tail from one side or the other of your sweater so that you could just keep it in the same color. But I want you to see how this forms. Okay, so I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to pull it through both legs of both stitches, and I'm going to slip both the front stitch and the back stitch off my needles. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to repeat that for the second stitch. Insert the needle in the front stitch as if to knit, and in the back stitch as if to knit. I'm going to take my working yarn, and I'm going to knit that stitch as well. Okay, and now I have 2 stitches on my right needle. I'm going to take the back stitch on my right needle and lift it over the front stitch on my right needle to bind those stitches off. Now I'm going to work the knit 2 together again, knitting together the front and back stitches. Slide them off the needle, and again I'm going to lift the back stitch on my right needle over the front stitch on my right needle and bind those stitches off. Okay, you'll continue working across the whole shoulder seam in this manner. First knitting a stitch off of each needle at the same time, and then carrying one stitch over the other to bind off from your right needle. Okay. So you can see it's forming this chain of stitches along the top. Some people like this decorative edge and they do want it on the outside of their work. If you wanted to do that, you could position your shoulders with the wrong sides together and have it on the top. But it does create a little bit of a ridge here. However, when you turn it over, it looks pretty flat, like a seam. And it's pretty easy. And if I were doing this in a not contrast color, it would hide really well. You'd just see a little bit of a leg showing through across. So that is how you do a 3-needle bind off.